How's it going, everybody? I'm meteorologist Joey Cognis back with your daily forecast. Today, our risk for severe weather is out in the southeastern portion of the country. We could also see some scattered, more isolated severe storms in a bunch of different areas. Parts of South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, Wyoming, and Texas could all see some low-end severe weather today going into the afternoon and evening. And then we are still expecting the low-end severe risk to continue at least over the next week or so. By low end, I mean still a risk for severe weather pretty much every single day, but significantly lower risk than we've had over the past couple of weeks. Things are slowing down just a little bit, getting a little bit of a break before we could see our next potential wave of severe weather come through. Looking at what we had for yesterday, starting down in Texas, we had some good hailstorms out there, some wind as well. Largest hail report we had yesterday was 2 inches, and that was just to the east of Laredo down there, and then moving a little bit farther east along the Gulf Coast. It was mostly wind. We had a brief little spin up along the Florida coast there, some hail in Alabama, not too much other than wind along the Gulf Coast. Random hailstone report in Arkansas up there, as well as a couple of tornadoes out in Missouri. And then up in the Rocky Mountains, or near the Rocky Mountains, had a bunch of wind reports, some hail reported as well in Idaho. That was later last night. So if you were like me and you completely missed that, that's what was happening. Well, you probably weren't paying attention to the weather. Looking at what we have going on right now, we have this nice little warm front extending through the southeastern U.S. That's going to fire off some of this morning convection. And then in this warm sector here, that's where we're going to watch for severe storms later on in the day as this low pressure system continues to track off to the east. Clouds beginning to pop up, getting some nice cumulus clouds building up in the southeast. Could be some scattered severe weather out there today. And then zooming back out here, we have this nice trough here across the central U.S. that's providing a little bit of upper level support for these storms. Temperatures looking pretty good in the mid to lower 70s behind the trough as well. Moisture is looking fairly good for the system. That's not an issue at all. It's more so the instability and wind shear that's the issue for today. So we're not going to have a large severe weather outbreak, but there is going to be just enough instability, just enough moisture, and just barely enough wind shear to possibly get some isolated severe storms out in the southeast today, as well as portions of the western U.S. So starting up in the central portion of the country and the Midwest here, seeing some storms starting to fire off in South Dakota and Nebraska around 4 or 5 p.m. this evening, and those are expected to grow. We could see a few brief little spin-ups, maybe some hail out of these storms. Not going to be a super high-end day by any means out there, but up there, the air in the upper and middle atmosphere is cold enough that if we get a good updraft going, it'll probably produce some severe hail. And then down in the southeast, it's going to be just very scattered, like I was saying before. No like isolated or no organized convection. It's going to be just kind of dispersed all over the place. Makes a mess for mapping these kind of days where everything's just kind of all over the place and you don't really know what to keep an eye on, because everything could go up, drop hail, and then die before you even notice it. So this is what we have going on around 4:30 this afternoon, and then that's going to kind of linger and continue throughout the evening. These storms are very slow moving because of that lack of wind shear, so they could be sitting over an area for a decent amount of time. So those storms, if they do produce severe hail, are going to do more damage because of how slowly they are moving. So those will kind of dissipate into the early morning hours. Like I said, these storms don't have a ton of instability to work with. So this is the forecasted instability at around 4:30 today. This is what we have. Not high end by any means. Florida has more instability than the rest of the southeast, which is to be expected down there, but not a ton of instabilities for these storms to work with. But there is a pretty solid amount of moisture out there, so just barely enough support for some possibly severe weather going into this afternoon and evening. So this is what we have for our hail maps today. Got three main areas. Looking at the southeast first, where our most significant risk is. Nashville, Birmingham having the highest chances for seeing some severe hail, expecting up to golf balls today. Maybe we see an isolated 2-inch report out of some of these storms, but not expecting a ton. Atlanta, Tallahassee, Orlando, all in the lower end of the risk for severe weather today, but it is still there. And then moving out to Texas, this very narrow band of that we could see some severe storms pop up. Really the only major area or major city in this risk area is Abilene. They've been getting a bunch of severe weather so far this year. All the storms in Texas seem to be centered around Abilene for some reason, just with the way that things are setting up. And then up farther north, we have this risk area. No major cities really under the gun here. We have McCook, Nebraska, Valentine. Those are really the main cities. Dodge City kind of right on the edge of that risk there, but not any super big metro areas for that northern risk area. Wind, pretty much the same areas that we're expecting for that. Nashville probably has the highest wind threat, or severe wind threat for today out of these storms. Not going to have a line move through like we did yesterday along the Gulf Coast or anything like that. But just with some of the stronger updrafts, if those updrafts collapse, we could see some stronger wind gusts out of those. Pretty much the same down in Texas, same with up north, except we're extending this a little bit farther out west into Wyoming, out kind of near Salt Lake City, very bottom portion of Idaho. But Denver, they could see some decent wind gusts today. Likely going to be non-thunderstorm related out there. With some downslope winds probably kicking in later this afternoon and evening, but a larger wind threat than a hail threat up north in the Midwest and western U.S. Now for tornadoes, we're looking at Atlanta and Orlando being the main areas to focus. Nashville could see that same tornado risk out there, but slightly more narrowed tornado threat. And you see this kind of lines up right where that warm front is going to be positioned later on this afternoon, with that warm front located right along that curve there, cold front extending all the way from around the Louisville area all the way down to the Gulf Coast. And then we have this tiny little tornado risk right on the border of South Dakota and Nebraska, just with the way that things are lining up right now, where that low pressure system is up there. We could see a very brief spin up. These are the types of days where you get an isolated cell that just barely starts to rotate, and there's just enough stretching from that updraft that something drops down to the ground. So we could see a brief little tornado or two up in the South Dakota, Nebraska area. Here's what we have for our upper air map. See this nice jet streak along the southeastern U.S. That's going to be firing off those storms later on this afternoon and evening. And then we have this little shortwave trough, this little dip in the upper atmosphere. That's what's going to provide that upper level support for those storms up north. They don't need a whole lot of upper level support to get that low end severe weather out there. Just any little disturbance in the upper atmosphere can kick off some storms up there. Moving on into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This is our next little system that we have moving through, another weaker shortwave trough moving through. So not anything super high end that we're watching out for right now with these storms, but we're keeping an eye on them. Pretty much the same exact track as the system that we're experiencing today and that moved through yesterday. And then the upper Midwest could see some storms for the weekend as this slightly stronger trough moves through. But the jet stream is quite a bit weaker than it has been over the past couple of weeks. So that's what is causing our lower end severe threat over the next couple of days and week or so. So 6 to 10 day rain outlook, expecting a slight chance for above average precipitation over pretty much the entire country, slight chance for below average precipitation along the far southern portion of the country, right along the Mexico border there, and then near equal chances for above or below average precipitation right along the Red River, Pacific Northwest, those areas expecting near average precipitation. And then for temperatures, expecting above average temperatures for a good chunk of the country, about 2/3 of the country expected to experience above average temperatures over the next, over that 6 to 10 day period out there, and then below average for the Pacific Northwest. So things are calming down a little bit right now, giving the Met team back here a much needed break after what has been a very active, really past 3 weeks. April ending strong, May starting strong. Things are finally slowing down just a little bit so we can catch our breath, get back on top of things, and then prepare for the next wave of severe weather that's likely going to kick up in the next couple of weeks or so. So we're keeping an eye on that, but that's all we have for today. If you're interested in learning more about us, go ahead and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Or if you're interested in purchasing a plan, go ahead and scan that QR code up above me. Or you can give us a call at 855-334-4245. Email us at info@hailtrace.com or check out our website at www.hailtrace.com. That's it for now. I'm meteorologist Joey Kragnes. Thanks for watching.